I did a shoe with a review of the retro version of the and1 Chosen. Is it Chosen 1 or Chosen? I'm not really sure. But this is the shoe that was sort of like a play exclusive for Ben Wallace in the 2004 finals. I remember when I was in the mandatory military service, and when I was kind of detached from NBA basketball, I know that Kobe and Shaq was dominating and the Lakers were there and Karl Malone and Gary Payton joined in, so I assumed that whoever meets them will be destroyed. And when I heard the Pistons are facing them, the Detroit Pistons, and when my underling said, these guys are good, like I said, F you, shut the L. What do you know about basketball? It's gonna be a Lakers sweep. But then I was wrong. It was a gentleman's sweep by the Detroit Pistons. I think the many players said Ben Wallace is the heart and soul of that team, despite him not being able to shoot the ball well or walk away saying, don't pass me the ball when it comes to crunch time when he could get fouled for a free throw. Defensive anchor, of course. This and1, interestingly, I think 3 of the starters for the Detroit Pistons were wearing and1, if I'm not mistaken. I think Tayshaun Prince, not too sure about Tayshaun Prince, but Chauncey Billups, and Ben Wallace was definitely rocking the N1s. But Billups was wearing a generic N1 model that was kind of like for every man. But Ben Wallace had this unique one with his Swiss cheese hole, which kind of stood out. Always wanted to see what it feels like. I didn't really fancy those shoes back then, but now that the brand is kind of dead and extinct, and now they have a reissue, I definitely wanted to put my feet in and try what it feels like. So for size 9.5, it weighs about 450 grams, but it feels lighter than what the digits show. It looks bulky, but it's not that heavy. Once you put on your feet, it's not that, it doesn't feel that bulky. These Swiss cheese holes, they get the job done. These they may look like a expensive Crocs, but these are kind of like a cross hybrid between a polyurethane material and some synthetic leather, so they're not as thick as those foamy materials that you're used to seeing in shoes like the Composites. Definitely fit in that, but thicker than leather. So the holes definitely provide breathability, just a layer of inner booty inside. And even though they look chunky, they're very soft and flexible. So as you move around, you don't feel any pinching sensation. Immediately, you don't have to break them in, so that's a nice touch. The lace loop, unfortunately, starts a bit too high further up for me. I like it when they're closer to your toe box, so you can actually get the one-to-one fit. So you'll have to find out if this is a good shoe for you. But for me personally, I think if you have a very high, thick, fat foot, then it's good for you. But if you have a very thin foot that you are uncomfortable with excess dead space on top of your toe box, this is a shoe you might want to avoid, because despite the shoe looking pretty sharp, there's a bit of a space up here, and you can't lace them down because the lace lock only starts from up here. Fitting wise, it's pretty roomy. It looks sharp, but it's pretty roomy. So I would say go true to size. If you're a very narrow foot who likes a very tight fit, then you definitely have to go down half a size. Wide footers, I think, if you're really that wide, you can go up half a size, but most people, I think you can have a comfortable fit if you go true to size. One thing that surprised me about this shoe, other than the lightweightness and the breathability, which is actually on par, if not better than some of the models that's out there today. It's from 2004. It's that it doesn't have a prominent outrigger, and the shoe is kind of it doesn't have a wide base, so it feels a little bit unstable. Fortunately, it's very low to the ground, so it's not that crazy unstable like LeBron 15s, but it's almost as unstable as, those shoes. It feels like a running shoe, low to the ground running shoe, so not great in terms of ankle inversion prevention kind of mechanism. Pretty lacking there. I think they used to call this the harmonics, but whatever cushioning they've had in the past and even today's, it's basically some kind of air tube here. So it's got a little air tube here on the lateral and the medial side, and at the core it's a bit shaven out. Interestingly, these air soles, they're kind of plasticky. They're not as flexible or as forgiving as conventional air soles, so they feel like those are old school Air Max Nike running shoes where the air is only, you feel the air compressing once they're punctured. That's kind of like how they feel like. But the good thing about the setup they have here is that because the core, there's this hollow space for the foam to expand, you can feel that compression and comfort and shock absorption in the middle. But when you're landing laterally or medially, you feel like it's a bit clunky. But once you're landing on your heel or you're just landing flat, you kind of feel a bit of a compression and a bit of a shock absorption there. On the forefoot, it's very low to the ground. I don't know what kind of EVA foam they use, but even if you compress this, you can feel that this is a very nice, generous, low density foam. So it's nice. It's very low to the ground. The insole they've given it is also pretty decent EVA insole. I think if you get a thicker, more performance-based insole, you could actually upgrade this a little bit more. Again, the strong point of this shoe is that immediately out of the box, once you slip your foot in and walk around in it, you can feel there's a certain level of comfort from the midsoles and the insoles working in tandem. But of course, they're kind of like the Kyrie 234s or I would say they're better than some of the Adidas models that were dominating the market in the 2000s and mid 2000s, because they're like hard as hell, but people still wore them and said, firm shoes are good for your feet, or that's BS in my opinion. So this is kind of like a Kyrie 234s, where you have the shoe that's very low to the ground and very minimal forefoot cushioning, low to the ground and heel. So it's like a Kyrie 234 with a bit of a heel elevation and clunkiness. That's how it feels like. Or it's like a Nike old school Air Max Air Force running shoe that's got a low to the ground forefoot that's kind of softer than most old school running shoes. That's kind of how it feels like. The traction pattern, although it looks like it's got good herringbone all around, interestingly, it doesn't make any squeaking sound, but it grips pretty okay on clean courts. Once it gets dustier, it's a little bit more sensitive to dust. I wouldn't say the traction. Remember the Adidas models like the Dame 6 when they had, herringbone all over, but it was just completely useless? It's not as bad as that, but it's just slightly better. It's not as good as the herringbone traction that you get from certain shoes like the Jordan 34s or 36 or even the current 38 or the Curry 2s, where the herringbone traction pattern is getting the job done. The grooves are kind of shallow. So if some people said this is more durable than most Nike or other basketball shoes in terms of outsole durability, maybe the outsole is durable, but that's because they don't have such a deep, sharp blade. So even though, they may seem durable, they're not going to be providing as superior of a traction than some of the models that's out there. No squeak, decent traction, pretty decently dust sensitive as well. So that's something you might want to consider. The strap is kind of weird. It's kind of like the Air Force One straps, but it's very short. So you have to let it go and then put it back in once you're wearing them. So it's a bit of a hassle. But the strap is pretty substantial and thick, and it actually do help with the lockdown a little bit. It's interesting how the shoe is cut. It's got a lot of height on the medial side and a little bit more low cut on the lateral side. This is the kind of asymmetrical support structure that we've had, I think, first introduced in Jordan 5s, where this part is a bit more raised, but you see the ankles on the lateral side, and we were thinking, don't you need more support on the outside? But no, it's actually, you need more support here because you're going to be spraining your ankle this way, not the other way. So you need something more substantial to lock it down here. So this is a good touch. I think that pretty much covers it. It's on sale for less than $100 these days, I think. So if you want to take a walk down memory lane or pay tribute to Ben Wallace, or keep this in your collection because it's a pretty unique design, or if you like playing basketball in those really low to the ground shoes and you don't get blisters playing long hours of basketball in minimal shoes like the Kyrie 234s, this is definitely something you might want to try.